So, Roah was the first game I got to use FMOD on, and I'm just gonna go through some little things I did, things I learned. First off, a lot of the tracks have an intro that doesn't repeat. For instance, the main theme here. This only goes through once, and then it's gonna loop. Then it's gonna loop the main track here. I did that for a couple. This one loops the intro. The intro plays twice, and then it's done. This, the third time it plays, it just goes right into music again. I just wanted to give it some variety, and I hope that helped, but I'm not totally positive. I did that on C. C has a really cool intro, but it's not really rhythmic or melodic. So I didn't want that to play. Every single time. All of the bosses have an interaction, a text interaction before you fight, and I wanted to create a part of the track that would loop indefinitely until you were done chatting. So this is what I have for most of these. For Encounter, which is a kind of a mini boss or an underground area, it'll play this first part here, and then the second part will loop. I should just play while I'm talking. It'll play this first part here, and then the second part that has the delay in it will continue looping. And then whenever the text is done, whenever you're done chatting with the boss, it'll jump right to the breakdown here. It'll jump right to like the drum fill. And then after that, it will always loop within the more rhythmic part of the song. Yeah, so once again, whenever you're playing here, it'll wait until the end of this, which is just enough time for that little breakdown, and then it'll jump to the fill when you're done chatting with the boss. Same with this one here. Whoops. Same with this boss here. It's gonna loop this first part, which is kind of a rising, I don't know, short little melody thing. And then it's going to the second part that goes even higher and higher once you're done talking to the boss. And then it cuts into the intense boss music, and it will only loop this section. Same with T. Let's see here. So this part has a melody that plays along with this bass line, and when you're done chatting with the boss, it will jump to track start, which is the melody start. So it's a little bit, through the track, but once it loops, it will go all the way and play this kind of intro again. I learned that, you could have your track start in all sorts of different areas, which is pretty cool because some of when you're writing a song, it goes up and down, but you could really just start the playback at a really interesting part. Same with Moth Form here. This is gonna play, and when you're done chatting with the boss, it's gonna jump to the second phase of this, right? So it's gonna skip over this and start here. So there's like a melody and then a callback melody. And let's see, robot theme. Okay, so this has a breathing, airy sound. And I didn't want this part to loop, because when the airy breathing goes back and forth, it sounds too distracting. So I took out the airy breathing, and I just have the melody playing, or just the musical instruments, no noise or artifacts or anything. And what I did was, I have my boss text parameter set that anytime you're done chatting with the boss, it jumps to this corresponding part of the kind of like breathing intro part. So let's see if I can just give an example. So now it cuts into the same part of the second, and then when the track starts, it will always loop the more intense, awesome part. And same with our C boss here. Let's see here. We have a 6/8 timing thing, and when you're done chatting with the boss and ready to fight, at the end of it, it'll go to track start and stay within these bounds. And final boss has a space ambience that plays. And this will continue playing as long as you're chatting with the final boss. And I think in different phases in the boss. And then the final boss has a second mechanic, I guess you would say. And when you enter that mechanic, it jumps to a different part of the song that's kind of like intense sounding. As you're dealing with this mechanic, it plays this part. And as you finish this part, it jumps to a slightly more melodic part of the song. And this is all at a quarter note. Uh-oh, I'm back in the other part. So that's pretty cool. The most complex one is this. This is a giant bird boss with a bunch of fire around him. And this part here is the same little bass melody over and over. So when you're done chatting, it'll go to track start at the end of any one of these bars. It'll play this intro once, and then it'll go into the main loop. This boss lifts you up from the nest, flies in the sky, and then drops you, and you have to traverse some like dangerous terrain. So we have a parameter that goes to rising, and anytime it picks you up and starts flying up, it triggers a kind of upwards shepherd's tone-y type of music, which will just keep going higher and higher and higher sounding. And when it drops you, it's going to trigger some falling type of music. And this is on quarter notes, or sorry, whole notes. You're going to keep falling and falling, and then whenever you land back in the nest, it's going to trigger the main music again. And you're going to keep fighting. And I think there's a couple of successions of being lifted up and dropped. Most of the sounds are pretty basic. I tried something in the beginning here where I designed a sound in Reaper, and then I exported the individual files with separate takes of the same sound. So for instance, like a whip. And all these sounds were designed in Serum, so it's a synthesizer only type of sound design I did. All these have pitch and volume randomization. Because I wanted it to sound slightly organic, even though it's a synthesizer making the sounds. I thought maybe it's like each sound would be a little bit different. But I think to the untrained ear and most people, I could have probably just designed the sound in Reaper and then just randomized the pitch and volume a little, and it would have been the same. I guess if I really extremely did the pitch and volume, like really intensely, you know, it might have been more noticeable, but for my ears, I don't think it was super noticeable when I put it all together. So let's see here. These are all real basic. Dig is just some white noise, and I wrote in automation for the volume and pitch. For some reason, doesn't play that great. As opposed to designing it again, I was already in FMOD, and I thought it would be easier. So flip jump has a couple of different takes for the slow part, the bassy part here, and then the jump. So maybe this one is like, it does sound more organic when you have variations upon variations. I made some bug wings here, and we have a parameter of 100. When you're flying in the air and gliding around, it will stay at 100, and eventually you have only so much energy. And when you lose that energy, this parameter will go down to 0, and the parameter is attached to pitch. So your pitch is going to go down as you start to fall. Let's see here. Oh, wait, I got to go to the main thing. Boop! And then you're going to land on the ground. Okay, so let's see here. Change is actually a melodic scale, like an Arabic scale. But I couldn't get it to play in order, go up and down, so we just still had all the sounds and randomized them. When you're changing to the menu, it plays them at random, but at least it's within a scale, so it's mildly interesting. Let's see here. I created one snapshot, which is basically a picture of the faders where the music is very low or at 0. And 100% of this means that the faders are going to be all the way down, and then 0 means the faders are going to return to normal. So if I have like some music playing here, this will work. You never know. And then I collect a major item. It's gonna duck all the music. And I have that happen at a couple parts, like, let's see here where death is. There we go. Yeah, this is gonna change the focus from the music to the death music. And I did this with a couple of things, like when you get major items, achievements, deaths, or there's something else I can't remember. I learned that all from the Celeste FMOD walkthrough. I did not know how to do snapshots, and it's pretty cool that you can just drag them in here. If I open a mixer, can I open a mixer? If I open a mixer, yeah. And then I take a snapshot of, let's see, important event and just drag it in. Now, whenever you get to this part of the music, it's going to lower, well, of the sound effect, it's going to lower the music. That's pretty cool, I think. Yeah, so here we have our kind of hit sounds. They're made up of a couple different pieces. I really wanted to go for a Indiana Jones punch sound. I like that a lot. Ooh. And the third element is slap. So yeah, when you're hitting somebody, it's triggering all these different sounds, and as you have more combo damage, if you go into here, it's going to raise and start playing these little blips here. Let's see if I can play this. Along with your hits, it's also going to raise a slight amount of distortion and change the EQ a little bit as you're hitting something. As you're doing combo damage. There's also some characters have armor. So we have it sounds so good. So we have some armor here, and this is going to go down in volume at a certain point, which is around 60, and it's also going to go down in pitch as you're being hit, as if the armor is going to fall off. So let's see here. And then they have no armor, and then you can really attack them. We have player damage sounds, which don't always shine through. I think I might have had it mixed a little better. And then hit strong is just a little occasionally can do a better hit. And it plays kind of a whipping sound. So these are parameters that can happen as you're fighting. Yeah, we have a laser here with a parameter based off of how powerful the laser is. So yeah, they all sound more and more interesting or dynamic, hopefully. And then we have a help bar that just loops, basically. And kind of like Mega Man, it's going to zoom in at the beginning of a fight with a boss battle, and then as the health bar fills, it's going to go from 0 to 100. And that's going to be affected by pitch. The pitch is going to go up, right? And 24 semitones, and also there's going to be some reverb there. And I think that's most of the stuff I did here. It was my first experience with FMOD in an actual game instead of just studying it. Because believe it or not, sometimes it's hard to convince people that you're working with to use it, because they might have already put a lot of work into having the audio set up in Unity, whatever they're using. So I did have to relearn a lot, and I think by the end of it, I learned like a million things that I wish I could have applied. But it sounds good, and it really allowed me to interact with the developer and the game in a way that I never would have been able to without.